as you are getting your questions prepared, ladies and gentlemen, for the Ask Steven segment, at least I hope you are getting your questions prepared. We have returned from the break on In My Own Words, Touchdown Alabama Magazine premier podcast show. Some huge news coming out of the University of Alabama. First off, Crimson Tide, University of Southern California Trojans have confirmed the 2020 Advocare Classic is on from AT&T Stadium, Jerry World, Arlington, Texas. Both schools have confirmed it is official. Alabama, USC will square off on the field Saturday, September 5th, 2020. Crimson Tide Athletic Director Greg Byrne, head coach Nick Saban, both very excited for the Advocare Classic. Nick Saban, since 2008, continuing the tradition of scheduling marquee Power 5 conference opponents for his Crimson Tide team as a gauge to see where his team is in relation to the rest of college football in competing for the ultimate goal, which is a national championship. So that got confirmed today. Alabama, USC 2020 Advocare Classic, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. In other big news, the University of Alabama landed a major verbal commitment for its 2019 signing class from the nation's top-rated kicking prospect, according to Chris Saylor kicking site and Cole's kicking and punting site. Now, if you were to go to 247 Sports, it has the young man from Hoover High School as the number 2 kicker in the nation, but Will Reichert, 6'1", 185 pounds, has said yes to the University of Alabama, yes to head coach Nick Saban, handing the school his verbal commitment. As I always do, when I see a new name, a new talent, a new prospect verbally commit to the University of Alabama, I spend about 30 minutes to an hour at least breaking down film on the respective player. Now, depending on how big the name is, that can go into 2 hours of watching film. But at the least 30 minutes to an hour breaking down tape on how good the prospect is, how talented the prospect is, but most importantly, how can this particular individual enhance the University of Alabama as a whole? And in looking at the film on Reichert, I noticed 3 things. Number 1, strong posture upon the ball initially being snapped and held from the kick. Number 2, I look at Reichert's leg placement. His feet, his legs, always in the right spot upon him driving, attacking the football. And number 3, his follow through with his placement, his pivot foot. It's a fluid motion. Posture initially, stands tall. Placement, he's driving through the football. Last but not least, that placement, that pivot foot on the follow through calms down naturally. It's a fluid motion. Posture, placement of the leg, following through with the drive on the leg. Those are 3 things people squarely look at when you talk about, do I have an accurate kicker mechanically? Will Reichert has all of those mechanics. Another thing I saw on tape, touchbacks. 97% of his kickoffs resulted in touchbacks last season at Hoover as the Buccaneers went on to be the 2017 state champions. Another thing I saw, sound on extra points. The one thing I want to see more from Reichert as he goes into his senior year is more field goals. He was only 8 of 9 on field goal attempts. So I would like to see head coach Josh Niblett, Hoover Buccaneers, get him more field goal attempts. But the posture, the leg placement, the follow through, all things mechanically, I see full working motion for Will Reichert. And touchbacks, 97%. Can't beat that. When I looked at a tweet from the Chris Saylor kicking camp on Reichert. The tweet says that Saylor has been coaching and watching Reichert grow as a kicker since the 6th grade. And by I, this is Chris Saylor talking, it says, I can say with certainty that he is the best I've ever seen at the high school level. Chris Saylor raving about Will Reichert. And I understand a lot of Crimson Tide fans will come out saying, that's good, that's great, that's wonderful, but can he do that when he puts on the pads? Can he do that when he puts on the cleats? Can he do that when he's a part of the University of Alabama, the letter of intent is signed and he's kicking for the Crimson Tide? And I get all of the concerns. I understand all of the concerns, but when somebody that has really worked with a person comes out and says something like this, there's more substance than sizzle. There's more to the appeal. Case in point, we all remember the words that Elite 11 founder, former Super Bowl winning quarterback, Trent Dilfer has stated about Tua Tagovailoa. We've all have seen it. And what did Tua do in the national championship game, provided that Trent Dilfer wasn't lying? I mean, I understand it wasn't a small sample, second half, national championship game against Georgia, but 14 for 24 passing for $166 and 3 touchdowns and winning the MVP of the game sounds more steak than sizzle. Sounds more substance than hype to me. And I look at Chris Saylor saying these things about the leg strength, the ability of Will Reichert. I'm excited about this kid. When you look at the Crimson Tide in 2017, it landed the nation's top-rated kicker, according to Rivals.com, a 3-star in Joseph Belovas. You looked at the A-Day game this year, 5 of 7 on field goals, including a pair of 40-yarders. Alabama fans very happy about that. And now in 2019, and now for the 2019 class, as I should say, you get you a verbal commitment from Will Reichert. If he signs the letter of intent for the Crimson Tide, then you're looking at a fun battle between Belovas and Reichert for years to come in kicking. With this being said, I mean, can we just be happy at the fact that Nick Saban, Jeff Banks, who, by the way, the real deal special teams coach Alabama got from Texas A&M, Nick Saban, Jeff Banks, actually going after marquee kickers. I mean, in the last few years, Crimson Tide fans, how many times have you cringed, disgruntled, looking like you in utter anguish when the kicker walks out on the field? I mean, when the Jumbotron announces every guy in a position group for Alabama for home games, I hear the claps, the cheers, the applause, and when the kicker comes out there, it's like, crap, he's out here. Here comes the kicker. Oh, man. Here we go again. Oh, man. You're either saying 5 prayers to yourself, you're trying to not grab the bottle of Jack and Coke out of your bag, you are trying to say, it's just an extra point. It's just an extra point. It's not as bad as it looks. It's not as bad as it looks. But we all have had the situations where the kicker goes out there and we have absolutely no faith that that kid is going to put that ball for the goalpost. Should Reichert pin down his letter of intent for Alabama? Then people, get ready, because Jeff Banks is about to change the narrative of special teams for years to come. But for right now, congratulations to Reichert, his family, and the Crimson Tide for getting this done. Alabama landing a marquee verbal commitment from the top-rated kicking prospect, according to Chris Saylor, kicking site, and Cole's Kicking and Punting Network Will Reichert, giving a yes to Alabama and head coach Nick Saban verbally. Last but not least, in news, ladies and gentlemen, Athlon Sports is waiting for no one. They're not waiting on ESPN. They're not waiting on Sporting News. They're not waiting on Sports Illustrated. They're not waiting on Phil Steele. They're not waiting on anybody to give out their all-conference, all-SEC, all-American list. No, Athlon Sports is taking matters into its own hands, and they are spearheading this thing from the get-go. The publication put out its all-SEC team this week. Alabama, with 11 players recognized on this list, in this article, 6 of the 11 players, first team nominees, first team selections, first team candidates. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, running back Damian Harris, offensive center Ross Pierschbaker, offensive tackle, Jonah Williams, make up first team offense, first team defense, defensive end Raekwon Davis, inside linebacker Mack Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, second team wide receiver. As for the third team, defensive back Trayvon Diggs made it from the punt return aspect. And on the fourth team, we have the trio of running back Najee Harris, linebacker Dylan Moses, and punter Skylar DeLong. Lot of expectations for Alabama next season. Lot of them. Athlon Sports looks like it's very high on the tide. And offensively, defensively, special teams, not a talent on this year's roster. I understand the concerns of the secondary with losing 6 guys to the National Football League and having Tosh Lupoi give the signals to the secondary. I see how that could be a problem, how that can be an issue, but I feel like a lot of guys are undervaluing Deontay Thompson. Here is a guy that was Minkah Fitzpatrick's understudy throughout the entire 2017 season, from spring ball, summer workouts, fall camp, throughout the entire season. Xavier McKinney, I've heard a lot of good things about him. He's got a lot of Landon Collins in him. Savion Smith, Trayvon Diggs, I get it. They don't have the experience of an Anthony Averett or a Levi Wallace, but give me talent and range right now. Both of these two, 6'2", 200 plus pounds, long, lean, athletic, physical. Give me those odds. Give me both of those players at both corner spots. Shaheem Carter at star, Daniel Wright possibly at that dime money back position. And then you got Jarrett Maiden, Nigel Knott, all the guys in the summer, Patrick Surtain, Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis. As long as Tosh Lupoi can put them in the right spots, the secondary is going to be fine. I look at this Alabama team. Athlon Sports is not waiting on nobody else. They're spearheading this thing. They're putting their list out right now. And just going back over this once again, 11 Alabama players were recognized. 6 made the first team. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback. Damian Harris, running back. Ross Pierschbaker, offensive center. Jonah Williams, offensive tackle. On defense, it was defensive end Raekwon Davis, linebacker Mack Wilson. Those 6 first team nominees, candidates, selections. Taking our final break here on In My Own Words. When we get back, we get that mailbag. Your questions, your thoughts, your concerns. Gotta hear from you in terms of your Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll be right back. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.